will have to leave a little bit early. Their candidates were arriving. So this is going to be a very go-with-the-flow conversational kind of evening, which seems appropriate for this space. And we're joined here tonight by Josh and Jaden, who are also going to be asking questions. Yeah, clap it up. We're also joined by Simple Lay, who's going to be our timekeeper, and we'll be sharing some more information in just a few moments. There have been more than 30 Mayoral forums in January, I know you know that. And today's forum will focus on older youth, and that means young people ages 12 to 24. And we're going to be talking about issues pertaining to them, including quality year-round workforce development opportunities, safe spaces for meaningful opportunities during out-of-school time, which we also call OST, in order to build connections, develop skills, explore passions, and to ensure successful transitions into adulthood, including college preparation and support for teens aging out of foster home. I wanted to thank a core group of individuals who have been working tirelessly for months to pull this together. So I want to thank CASA, Children First, Episcopal Community Services, my team at Magnet Philly, Greater Philadelphia Extracurricular Collaborative, also known as GPEC, Indo-Chinese American Council, Philadelphia Youth Sports Collaborative, and Sunrise in Philadelphia.
Some of the mics are working, but hi everyone, my name is Sybil. I am with the Kids Campaign. So Kids Campaign is 80 plus child serving organizations in the city right now. And so that's a big group. And we are mobilized because we want to make sure the next mayor of Philadelphia prioritizes kids, not just along the campaign trail, but into the administration. And so to do that, we've been organizing and partnering with different folks around the campaign trail for forums just like this. And we want to, hear what candidates have to say and everything as it pertains to kids, so that voters can make a really educated guess and ballot box on May 16th. So we need more help, and we need your help tonight, because as you can see, we reached out to 5 of the main candidates, and as you can see, only one person showed up. Right. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that folks give a round of applause to Rebecca. We know that this is the last leg of a really intense campaign trail. Candidates are tired. They've done, I want to say, probably more 50, 60, 70 forums, and on various issues, right? And these forums are to actually show folks and meet new people, expand people's bases, educate voters, and to make sure that the things that you care about and everything rise in the list of priorities, right? So everyone in here really cares about after-school programming and youth workforce development. You know that that's a key to success for Philadelphia in the future. So what we need you to do is we need you to help us elevate that platform among other candidates who did not attend as well, right? So if you're coming in, you should have gotten a little card with social media handles for folks who declined. As you can see, other people have dropped out and everything. We were not at the last minute, or they didn't show up even though they said they would and everything. And so we might not have all of their social media handles. And what we need is for y'all to get on Facebook and Twitter, and then, tag their pages and everything, and tag their pages and ask them where they are, and tell them what you need to see from them for OST, right? Folks have made this part of the platform. They've put out expansive plans. They said youth is really important to them, especially protecting youth is really important, especially with gun violence, the way that it is in our communities. But where are they, right? We know that they make choices about what events to attend, what constituencies to speak out, and we want to show love to the folks who are here, and then also just elevate the priorities to show people that, no, we mean business. This can't, OST should be part of the solution, and if that's part of the solution, then it should be, right, and it should be with providers and folks that we serve. So that is my one ask today and everything, and we want to make sure that their, social media pages are, telling them what they're missing out. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this back to Rebecca.
So those of you who know me know that I'm a facilitator at heart, and so if you'll indulge me, I think it will help Ms. Rhynhart see who's in the room with us today. So this is going to require you to stand up if you can, and if you can't, you can just raise your hand. What I'd like to see is, and all my colleagues, you know who you are, and for your support here. If you work at a youth serving organization, please stand up. great. You can sit down. You might be asked to do this one more time. So these are your squats for the afternoon. You're welcome. If you are a young person between the ages of 12 and 24, please stand up. If you are an adult that has a young person that you care about between the ages of 12 and 24 in your life, please stand up. There we go. Okay, and then you can stay standing, because I know this is going to apply to you, and the rest of you I hope will stand up. If you plan to vote in the primary, please stand up. All right, so we have a room full of voters with us today. Thank you very much. Have a seat. And we are all here to partner with the next mayor. So thank you, Rebecca Rhynhart, for being here during a very busy campaign schedule. We have a couple more things we want to share with you, and then we've got some questions, which will also allow you to introduce yourself. Let's go to the page. So we have 3 focus areas and 3 topics tonight. We're going to be talking about summer, transitioning into adulthood, including college and careers, and supporting young people in foster care, and then talking about out-of-school time, or as I say, OST and safety. Our young people, Josh and Jamie, will be asking questions in each section, and Quinn and I are going to divide up the talking so you won't hear me the entire I promise. We received more than 45 questions from those of you who registered in advance of tonight's forum, and so we hope that you'll see in the ways that we've consolidated and condensed these questions your interest and your concerns for the next mayor reflected in those questions. If you have questions that you want to ask tonight, some of my colleagues will be coming around with index cards, and so we're hoping to be able to create time for you all to ask questions. If you'd like to write them down, you can just raise your hand, and our colleagues will come over and hand you an index card and put those back for you. We're going to get started by asking you to introduce yourself and to tell us what does the first 100 days look like from your administration to address safety, including college and career readiness for youth and successful transitions to adulthood. Before we do that, I just want to provide a little more context. So we're going to give Ms. Rhynhart 3 or 4 minutes to answer each question. Symbol's going to be keeping track of time. We really want to make this conversational since it's just us and them. So we'll do our best to do that, and we know that you have to lead it properly. So some context for people in the room. Philadelphia in the early 1970s was able to place more than 23,000 high school students in 6-week summer job opportunities. We've done it before, and we should be able to do it again. However, funding cuts have wiped out at least 5,000 jobs last summer, further squeezing an already dwindling supply of summer youth employment opportunities. Every one of the city's 65,000 plus high school students must have at least one successful work experience before they graduate that helps them build relevant 21st century working skills. Youth employment opportunities should expose teens to a wide range of careers and types of employment and allow them to explore their interests, build their social capital through positive connections with adults and peers. Decades of research demonstrate that youth with at least one work experience before graduating high school have a stronger lifetime of earnings. At any given time, there are approximately 3,200 young people in foster care here in Philadelphia, and they're part of the 65,000 high school age youth that are seeking job opportunities, carrying relationships and the skills and tools to age out of the system as productive citizens. Those of us here today represent hundreds of youth-serving organizations that make up the out-of-school time system, whose missions are to support youth in the various ways to help them achieve their dreams. The next mayor should have a plan to work with out-of-school time providers. They should have a plan to increase funding to ensure quality OST programs are easily accessible to all youth, to provide safe spaces, create pathways for college and career success, to create better safety nets for those teens aging in foster care. I'm going to look forward to hearing from you how you plan to do that. So, we'll go back to the question. Please tell us about yourself and also what your plan is within the first 100 days to ensure that young people have the safety nets that they need.
Well, good evening. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you to Kids Campaign for organizing. My name is Rebecca Rhynhart, and I'm running for mayor because I believe that I'm the right person to lead our city forward in this 100 days, first and foremost, we have to make our city safer. And the way that I'll go about doing that is, the first thing is I'll open and activate our Emergency Operations Center. What this allows the mayor to do is coordinate the operating department response. Not just the police department, but streets department to fix lighting and to clean up trash and areas of neglect. The recreation department, Parks and Rec, to be laser focused on making sure that the neighborhoods with the most violence have significant after-school programming. Library, to make sure libraries are open after school. This is what I urged Mayor Kenny to do in 2021 when the gun violence was going up and up, and there needed to be more urgency. And there still absolutely needs to be more urgency. So that's the number one step I'll take, so that every single day as mayor, I'll make sure that we are laser focused on making sure the neighborhoods that have been long neglected, that have the majority of the violence, that our youth have activities and things to do in the neighborhoods. This is not just about policing. This is about having activities and supporting our neighborhoods that for decades we have not supported. In fact, we've disinvested from. So that's the first thing that I'll do as mayor. I'll also make sure that we begin working on the education system in our city. Now, was the question solely public safety?
No, thinking about out of school time, after school,
Sure.
helping people transition successfully out of foster care and into adulthood, which includes making sure there are safe spaces for young people.
Okay, good. So part of my education plan is to make sure that the city departments, the city resources are matched and aligned with the school district. So that the recreation department I mentioned, library department, the health department, to make sure that if a school does not have access to a nurse, which I believe every school should have a nurse, a social worker, and a therapist, but if it doesn't, then we use the city's public health department to make sure there's access. The same thing with trauma treatment. We have way too much trauma that's left untreated from gun violence, from poverty. And at the same time, I know from being the city's budget director for 5 years that the city spends $1 billion a year on behavioral health services, addiction services, and mental health support. But it often doesn't reach the people most in need. I've talked to people that have lost relatives to violence and they have to wait months to get a therapist. This is not acceptable. So I'll make sure that city resources, city departments are coordinated so that our youth get the services that they need and have the activities to truly feel enlightened and cared for by our city.
Can you also talk about, you listed a number of important entities and resources in the city, but I didn't hear you mention out-of-school time providers. And so I'm wondering where the first 100 days, those of us who are in the room, fit in to that plan.
Well, you fit in right away. So as the providers that I, as mayor, would want to meet with you from the very beginning to understand the lay of the land from your perspective, to understand what you need from the city to amplify and truly grow the services that you're providing, and where the pain points have been with the city. Because I'm sure there's pain points in dealing with the city that you might be able to say, oh, if only the city would do this, it would work so much better. I want to make it work better. And you are providing such an important service as out-of-school time providers that the city needs to partner. And that's one thing that I've done in the past as city controller, is bring together different stakeholders to make sure that we're working in a coordinated fashion, which is what I'll do as mayor.
Good afternoon. My name is DeLeon. I'm a junior nurse, and I'm 16 years old, and I also attend Franklin Henderson High School. mayor, thousands of teens in Philadelphia have had their first work experience during the summer, and others continue seeking employment and internship opportunities while still in high school. I was a team member last summer at Veteran Philly as a play captain. It was a positive and challenging experience. I learned how to collaborate with my teammates and learned how to facilitate more than 20 playful learning activities to help reduce summer slide and language learning. I developed a resume and learned other workplace skills. I came to work every day, 5 days a week, for 5 weeks, yet I was one of the hundreds of teens that did not get paid on time for work. I remember other teens were greatly impacted by not getting paid on time. My question to you is, what policies or strategies will you put in place to ensure that youth employment systems like Philadelphia Youth Network Workplace System, which is part of a larger umbrella of funding from Philadelphia Works, has the capacity to effectively execute contracts in a timely manner, train providers, and work sites on their systems and pay teams on time?
So the importance of summer employment, of having a job in high school is immensely important. So as mayor, I would make sure that we're growing the summer job program, and we're making sure that we reach as many teenagers as possible. I know from my own experience working in high school that it was extremely important to me in my development, and my daughter is 13, and I'm sure that soon that will be the case with her as well. In terms of your question about how to make sure that the structure is set up so that Philadelphia Youth Network has the ability to get the contract on time and pay vendors on time, this is an issue that the city often gets as a complaint, which is that the contracts aren't done in a timely manner and that payment isn't therefore done in a timely manner. And it's not acceptable. When I was chief administrative officer of the city, so I worked for the city, just by way of background. I worked for 2 mayors. I was the budget director, and then I was the chief administrative officer before running for office as the independently elected city controller in 2017. So as the chief administrative officer, I oversaw procurement for 1 year, and there were so many issues with the contract process. I put all of the departments together. There's 17 steps in the city system to get a contract signed, and it takes months and months, and it shouldn't. Because we need to make sure that things are working much faster. And I cut the length of time to pay vendors, but not enough, because not all the departments reported to me. And as mayor, all the departments report up to me, and I'll make sure that we fix that. Because if you're working, you should get paid. Like, it's ridiculous. So, and I want to be held to that standard that you work, you get paid on Friday. Like, that's what should happen. And there's no excuse that the city should or could give for that, and I'll make sure to fix it.
Thank you.
I wanted to follow up with your answer. A lot of times the problem is not necessarily one agency, but the problem is the city does not know the problem until the problem exacerbates. So would you consider having an office, a position that is directly within the administration that would oversee and coordinate all of the effort? Youth employment in the summer is a city program. Sometimes it may not be PYN problem, sometimes it just may be the federal, sometimes it may be the budget, but whatever that is, that the office needs to understand it and needed to figure out how to solve that problem so that at the minimum, the youth get paid on time. So I guess the bottom line is, would you create a position, an office, that directly report to the mayor?
Yes, it needs to be someone's job responsibility to ensure that this is being done. And it also brings up the bigger issue of that things are often not tracked in the city. So it it should be tracked in a way that there is sort of a red flag raised if a contract is falling a few days behind, or that before it gets to the point where the kids aren't paid, and then people call in complaining, and then that's what you're referring to. So no, under my leadership, we'll have very clear roles of who's responsible, and we'll ensure that it's working in a much more efficient manner to get people and our teenagers paid. Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Joshua Child, and I use the pronouns. I just turned 23, and I work as a solutions journalist, or intern solutions journalist at Result Philadelphia. I am also an assistant shift leader at the Monkey Cafe. I entered the foster care system when I was about 9 years old, and I've done the best of my ability to make use of the resources that was available to me or given to me. I've benefited from after-school programs like the University Community Collaborative, which ignited my curiosity and passion for film, and also from relationships with supportive adults and mentors in my life. I was 17 years old when I transitioned out of the foster care system, and although I did have support from mentors and other adults, I was mainly left on my own to do so. I had around 9 caseworkers, most of them who were not informed about the resources available to me and did not offer the help that I needed and support. Oftentimes, I would find out about resources a little too late. I was accepted into Temple University, but I wasn't able to continue past my first year due to financial hardships and having to work full-time and take a full course load of classes. As you may know, in 2019, Pennsylvania created the Foster and Independent Tuition Waiver Program to provide free tuition and cover application fees for young people living in the foster care system. I just did a piece on this as a part of my job at Resolve. Transitioning out of the foster care system is very complicated and overwhelming. Some examples that I have are like finding housing or applying for school in general, as well as learning what the next steps are for your life as you reach adulthood. Before we can use these resources such as the tuition waiver, we must secure affordable housing to provide food and other necessities for ourselves. My question to you is, how would you leverage the city's resources to ensure that I and other young adults are aware and have access to the range of resources that support me and other transitioning teens out of the foster system?
Thank you for that question. The city. The city absolutely needs to do more, and from listening to what you had to go through with 9 caseworkers, it should not be that way. And we need, as a city, we spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on DHS, and then we have big budget areas of other support services. There's no rational reason why we can't fix that so that there's better care, more compassionate care to guide young people through their life choices. No one when they're 17 is equipped to make all those decisions and figure all that out without family members or someone caring and leading the way in that regard. So what I would do as mayor would be to make sure that someone is in charge of creating the support system that is working. So why are there 9 caseworkers? That should not be the case. I didn't mean that to be like a pun on words. But we shouldn't have that. And as mayor, I would look at it and say, okay, we need to create better supports for our kids aging out of the foster care system. And what do we need to do to get there? And I would talk to people like yourself that have experienced it and have the lived experience with the system to be able to say, how do we change it? Because I know from my work as the city's budget director that the city does have money. It's about priorities, and it's about the will to actually make the change and to make programs and systems that truly work for people. This is why I ran for office in 2017, because I wanted to make that change, and it's why I'm running for mayor now. But to answer you, I will work to create those systems.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that answer. What I wanted to ask you, and this is the frustration of providers as well as parents as well as children. And Josh have just alluded to his experience as foster children. But the city, as you said, the city has money. The issue is how would the city leverage the funding and coordinate the funding so that programs are not running in silos? And I guess it go back to my question is that would there be an entity, would there be an office? But city has funding from a lot of sources. And parking right? OST, after school, and all these funding are running in silos. So how would you coordinate those funding? How would you leverage these funding so that programs can work together to support the youth and to reduce violence and to support their work experience so that they can enter adulthood?
So the way I look at it is that there should be coordination within either the mayor's office or managing director's office on youth initiatives, which includes out of school time. And there should be a group of people that are responsible for that will say, oh, this entity's working on this part of this other organization is working on this. Maybe you should talk to each other, but maybe the city needs to do this. I mean, this type of lack of coordination is something that I've seen so much of from within the city, and we need to do better than that. And I'm going to use my experience and my knowledge of how siloed the city is to break down those silos and to have individuals responsible for spearheading efforts at out-of-school time youth initiatives. Absolutely, that's a perfect fit for the managing director's office when it's working and properly functioning, that to coordinate, to make sure that everything's running in the best way possible.
I wanted to follow with that. How would you calculate or factor the school district into this equation as well? Because very often the school district runs its program in silo as well, and a lot of city programs are in silo. So we're a lot of time competing with each other, a lot of time we're should be complementing each other, but until there's an order. I am willing to be frank and say, unless the mayor makes it a priority and make it an order, an executive order, to make it happen, coordinating and asking people to work together through my years of youth services, and I'm looking at Tom as an ex-person who worked for the city, I don't have confidence that it will happen.
Well, that's why, as mayor, it'll be a main priority of mine to break those silos down, because the departments often don't talk with each other in the city. But under my leadership, they will, because they're going to have to. And from the school district perspective, part of my education plan is to have a strong mayor's office of education, and that office will be responsible for both making sure that the relevant stakeholders, the school district, the school board, and other stakeholders are all aligned with metrics for improvement and for the direction that we're moving in the schools. That Mayor's Office of Education will also be responsible for the coordination between city departments and the school district. And that coordination is what is missing. I spoke about that coordination as it has to do with, for example, the health department providing access to a nurse when the school doesn't have it. But it also fits perfectly with what you're talking about, with the school district having programs and then the city contracting for programs and not having it coordinated. Of course we need to coordinate that. And I can see that we can make that happen. Absolutely.
I know you have to run, so we're trying to keep quickly. So, would your administration consider making parks and recreation locations true community centers in order to be able to offer some of the services that you were talking about and help with some of the coordination and collaboration that we've been talking about?
I would definitely be open to that. I would want to have a conversation around what that would look like, but I think that we need to do everything we can do to lift communities up and to provide activities for families and for kids. And if that's a way to do that, then we should have that conversation. Yes.
So I want to also ask another budget question, since that's been your experience for so many years. How do you see leveraging the city budget to ensure that OST funding there's more collaboration between the state and the city to ensure that OST funding is really, truly baked in to the city budget?
So the coordination of the state grant money and the city funding often could use some work from a city perspective. I've seen that from inside the city. And that is something that absolutely can be improved on, especially if there's a coordinated effort and a unit actually responsible for this, right? And the other thing is that we need to prioritize the programs for our youth so that the programs for youth are not one of the first things that are cut. Okay? Because I've seen this as city controller when the pandemic hit, and Mayor Penny released his budget proposal that had some tax increases and some pretty severe cuts to programming. I said there's got to be a better way to do this. And I released an alternative budget which showed we don't have to cut, we definitely don't have to cut rec and programming. We don't have to raise taxes, we have to operate the city better. We can save $40 million a year just by managing overtime. There's things like that we can do to manage the city better. But we need to prioritize youth. And that's one of the reasons I ran for office was to make government truly work here in Philadelphia. And part of that is making sure that the operations and the money flows to where it's needed to go. That's what I would do. So to me, it has to be prioritized. The same thing happens to the arts. It constantly gets cut every time there is a budget shortfall. These youth programming, out of school time, the arts, the community arts, these are things that we need in our city. And we will absolutely find a way to not cut that. And you should be able to operate your programs without worrying about being cut. That's an additional strain on your everyday workload that should not be. So that's the way I'll look at it as mayor.
As a follow-up to that, I don't know how familiar you are with the funding for out-of-school time programs through some of the city departments, but right now it's at a cost reimbursement model at about $350 per teen per year. Pennsylvania spends $100,000 or more per young person to incarcerate them. So what are we going to do, what will you do in the city, in your administration, to make sure that we right-size those numbers and that we prioritize $100,000? If our organizations had $100,000 to spend per young person, you could keep them out of jail, and then keep them in the state, and keep them in the right. So what do your administration do to right-size those numbers and really think about prevention in a meaningful way?
Prevention and opportunity is the way forward. And the plans I have put forward to solve the city's issues, ranging from gun violence to the education issues, all involve tackling the root cause of the issue of crime and violence, which is we need to create opportunity, we need to fix the school system, we need to create job pathways from our neighborhoods to good-paying jobs. We have good-paying jobs, and we have people that want to work. We have to give the skills so that people can get good-paying jobs, family-sustaining jobs. And we need to something I've done a lot of work around as city controller, that service delivery is uneven depending on the neighborhood you live in, and it's not acceptable. And that goes for what pools open. They often open in wealthier neighborhoods first. It doesn't make any sense. And as mayor, I'm going to fix that inequity and make sure that we're laser focused on the neighborhoods that need the most to create. And so in terms of the switching from funding prisons to funding out of school time, I mean, my intention is to put energy into creating environments, out of school time programming, fixing schools in the neighborhoods, cleaning up the neighborhoods, putting the energy and love that we need to give to all of our city into our city. Because then we will see the community grow and actually help improve in our city. Thank you.
I know you have to leave, so if there's anything else you want to say in closing, and then if I could ask everyone else to stay while Ms. Rhynhart leaves, we are hoping that Mr. O will still be here, but in the transition, we're going to ask you to do a little bit of tweeting and texting and sort of lifting up some of the things you've heard today. So I want to give Ms. Rhynhart an opportunity to say a closing and for us to all say thank you, and then I'm going to ask you all to stay for about 5 minutes while we work through some transitions.
I want to say thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation, and I thank you for the work that you do for our youth and our young people throughout the city. I mentioned my daughter's 13 and in the public school system in Philadelphia, and the youth are the future of our city. And we have to lift up our youth and give space for our youth to find their selves and their happiness. And that's the way I'll leave as mayor. Vote May 16th. Thank you so much.
And there's potential that this game might also attend, so stay tuned. Fun evening, going with the flows, how we roll at school time. So this is familiar, everyone. So, we'll give you 3 minutes to introduce yourself and tell us how, in the first 100 days, you would answer this question. Where's my question? So, nope, not that one. Okay, so if you would sort of introduce yourself and tell the audience what does the first 100 days look like from your administration to address safety, college and career readiness for youth, and successful transitions to adulthood. And Symbol's going to give you your 3 minutes.
Not too much time to write anything down.
Well, we're just going to ask you to answer that question.
No, I'm on it.
Great.
So first of all, let me say good afternoon to everyone. And I was at a photo shoot, well, not a photo shoot, a video shoot earlier. So that's the reason why I'm late. I had to answer a lot of questions on camera. But I just wanted you to know that I will show up all the time for the kids.
That's right.
Okay? So that's the reason why I came. I was hoping that there would still be some time that I could come in and share my thoughts and answer your questions. So the situation with public safety is the first part that's been on my mind ever since I was a judge. I'm Jimmy DeLeon. I am a candidate for mayor of Philadelphia, and I was a judge here in Philadelphia for 34 years. Specifically, I was the homicide judge for 34 years. And during that period of time, I saw the loss of life for many young people. And it made me very upset, obviously. And there was a period of time where there were like 400 people being killed a year here in Philadelphia. And during that period of time, I was made the supervising judge of the Philadelphia Municipal Court. And I led the initiatives at that time that reduced the homicides from the 400 a year down to 250 a year for 7 straight years. Now, any life that we lose is a life that we don't want to lose because all life is precious. But the fact is that while I was supervising judge, the initiatives that we did on the court did save over 1,000 lives. So I know how to reduce violence in the city of Philadelphia. Specifically, I know how to reduce gun violence. Now, I've written on it, and I've come up with a program called the Local Incident Management System, which is geared after the National Incident Management System, in which, like the National Incident Management System, I would declare gun violence to be a dramatic incident. And once I do that, I would initiate a unified set of processes and procedures that the city government would use to combat gun violence by enabling the necessary responders to work more effectively and efficiently together to manage the root causes of gun violence. Now, specifically, we would deal with the court being involved in this, which the court has never been involved. That's the frustration that I have. Neither the mayor nor city council ever came to the court to ask them what we can do about gun violence. And I would also give money to the grassroots groups in order for the grassroots groups to do this. And I would put together a school safety task force specifically for the schools to make sure that our children get to school and come home safely every day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so next up is going to be Josh.
Hello, my name is Joshua Childs, and I use they, them pronouns. I recently just turned 23, and I work at Resolve Philadelphia as an intern solutions journalist. I'm also an assistant shift leader at the Monkey and Elephant Cafe. I entered the foster care system when I was around 9 years old, and I've done the best of my ability to manage all of the resources given to me. I've benefited from after-school programs like the University Community Collaborative located on Temple, which ignited my curiosity and passion for film, and also from relationships with supportive adults and mentors. When I was 17 years old, I started to transition out of the foster care system, and although I had supportive mentors, I was mostly left on my own to do so. I had around 9 caseworkers, most of whom were not informed of the resources available that I could use, and did not offer any return requests for supports or helpful information. Sorry. A lot of times when resources came my way, it was a little too late. I was also accepted into Temple University, but I was not able to continue past my first year due to financial hardships, and having to work full-time and also maintaining a full load of classes. As you may know, in 2019, Pennsylvania created the Fostering Independent Tuition Waiver program to provide free tuition and cover application fees for youth leaving the foster care system. I just did a piece on this as my job at Resolve. Transitioning out of the foster care system is very complicated and overwhelming for youth during this time. For example, there's a lot of things that we have to worry about, like finding a place to live. A lot of times, foster parents will phase out of having foster children. So before we can be in a position to utilize programs such as the tuition waiver, we must secure safe and affordable housing. To provide food and other necessities to support ourselves. My question to you is, how would you leverage the city's resources to ensure that I and other young adults are aware and have access to the range of resources that can support me and teens transitioning out of the foster care system?
Just one little question before we start, Doctor. From 18 and up or below 18? Or, the whole foster care, or just when an individual becomes an adult?
So transitioning out of the foster care system can happen between 16 and 23. So
Okay.
Anywhere between that range.
Okay. So this is like, I have 3 minutes on this one?
Sorry, yes. So did the other candidate.
Okay, so let me tell you a little story. I had a secretary. My last secretary, when I was a judge, went through foster care. And she also went through Girard College as a senior. She graduated from Girard College. So now, when she was young, and she was living in foster care when she was 15, 14, 13, she was taking care of her siblings. They were with her. And she had to go through sexual abuse. So I'm totally familiar with what might happen in foster care. And we work together as lifeguards. I'm a lifeguard also. I'm a working lifeguard water safety instructor at the Crop Center. So I worked with her as a lifeguard. And basically, I saw the skills that she had. She was captain of the basketball team, and I needed a secretary, so I offered her a job as a secretary. And she became my secretary at 18 years old, right when she graduated from Girard College. I'm happy to say that she still is with the court system, even after I left. She's now the secretary for the Honorable Jackie Frazier, Joe Frazier's daughter. So the fact is that for foster care individuals, being that I saw exactly what she went through, and I told her that, you know what, Deja, I'm going to look out after foster care children. The first thing that we're going to do is set up where foster children can come, the ones that are transitioning, where they can find housing, where they get clothing on their back, where they get food in their stomach, where they get job counseling, education counseling, anger management counseling, post-traumatic stress disorder counseling, mental health counseling, physical health counseling, whatever is needed in order to make that foster care child transition in a better light. Because see, I don't want that individual to become a homeless person. Now, in my homeless plan, I don't call them homeless anymore because remember, I told you, my plan is after the National Incident Management System. So people that don't have a home, they're displaced individuals. Just like as if a catastrophe had happened to your neighborhood. So what we're doing with them is we're giving them the emotional care that they need in order to be a better person. And again, this is where it comes back. Anger management counseling, post-traumatic stress disorder counseling, employment counseling, educational counseling, anything of that nature to make the person whole. And that's what I'm going to do for all foster care children that are transitioning.
Thank you. So we're going to do one more question. We're going to have Jamie finish our questions tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie.
Good afternoon. My name is Jaden King. I use he, him pronouns, and I am 16 years old. I attend Franklin Learning Center High School. As you may heard, thousands of teens in Philadelphia have had their first work experience during the summer, and others continue seeking employment and internship opportunities while still in high school. I was a teen director last summer at Fairview Philly as a play captain. It was a positive and challenging experience. I learned how to collaborate with my teammates, and I've also learned how to facilitate more than 20 playful learning activities to help reduce summer sliding for children. I developed a resume and learned other workplace skills. I've also come to work every day for 5 weeks, and I was one of the hundreds of teens that did not get paid on time for work rate. I, along with those other teens, were greatly impacted by not getting paid on time. My question is, what policies or strategies will you put in place to ensure that youth employment systems like Philadelphia Youth Network's work rate system, which is part of a larger umbrella of funding through Philadelphia Works, has the capacity to effectively execute contracts in a timely manner, train providers and work sites on their systems, and pay teams on time?
That's a great question, and the fact is that I myself, as well as probably everybody in here, felt how ridiculous that was when we were reading about that, how all these young people had these jobs and weren't getting any of the money. I mean, that was like a totally ridiculous thing I'd seen happen during the summer. And before that, they didn't have the jobs, okay? So now all of a sudden we've got the jobs, but we're not paying the people. So, again, let's go back to that plan that I told you about, the local incident management system. Because, see, that's set up to take care of all these type of problems that we have in the city. We just changed the words around. A set of processes and procedures that the city government would use in order to combat jobs for youth by enabling the necessary responders to work more effectively and efficiently together to manage the root causes of why jobs for youth aren't prevalent. Now, let's take that, because I would call that a dramatic incident. The fact that our children during their summer break don't have jobs is a dramatic incident that has to be addressed by the government here in Philadelphia. Now, I have an individual that would be put in place called the Director of Public Safety. now you see it on the ballot right now, but what you didn't know is that that is my idea. That the city council got it directly from me at these mayoral forums. And they came to me specifically and said, Jimmy, we do listen to you, okay? So that's mine, so I know how to use it. My department heads and my deputy department heads would be trained as incident specialists, just like I am, under the National Incident Management System, so that we would be able to hit these problems straight from day one and solve them. Now, what happens here is that we have to remember the 3 C's. Conversation, cooperation, coordination. That has to happen in order for our youth to make sure from the agencies that are supposed to give them the jobs that they get paid and that they have the jobs that they're supposed to have. So specifically, I myself, as I told you, am a lifeguard. And I looked at what was happening as far as not being enough lifeguards. That's how I broke into the system as a youth at 15 years old, as a lifeguard. You know, back then we were making like $9 an hour. Okay, and that was way back. Okay, so again, I wanted to have a lifeguard academy because I was going to make sure that we have all our pools open this summer. So that was what I was going to do. But the city got ahead of the game for once in their life. They started offering the jobs to people. The only problem that I had with what they were doing was that they said that we're going to give lifeguard jobs to people who don't know how to swim. The issue with learning how to swim is if you can put your face in the water, then I can teach you how to swim. If you don't put your face in the water, you cannot become a lifeguard in the city of Philadelphia. I'm sorry. Okay? Did I answer your question? I'm going to get you jobs and make sure that you have the job that you need in order so you can go to school. Okay?
We want to give you an opportunity in closing to say anything else for up to 3 minutes about yourself, your campaign, and any of the things we should expect from your administration.
Well, as I told you, I'm Jimmy DeLeon. So to give you a little bit about myself, I was a single parent, and before I was a single parent, I was raised by a mother who was a single parent. She raised both myself and my young brother. My father had left. He was a veteran of the Korean War and the Second World War. He suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. He was a combat veteran in both wars, got wounded in both wars. He found himself later in life, and he was good for my brother and myself. And my mother and his second wife ended up becoming good friends. So everything was wonderful there. But as a single parent, the reason why I ended up being a single parent is because I was married the first time, and my wife died and left me with a 13-month-old daughter that I had to raise. Now, during that period of time, I had just passed the bar exam, and I didn't have a job yet, so I was driving a cab, and I was on welfare. So I know these particular situations that people go through in life in order to raise their family. I made it. I became an attorney. I was also in the Army, but I couldn't go in the Army on active duty because I was scared I would have left my wife at the time, not knowing that she would, pass. So as a young single parent growing up, I ended up being a Girl Scout leader. I also had a son. Also, I was a Boy Scout leader. I was a Brownie leader. I was a Cub Scout leader. And I did things like that. Like what I'm doing right now in life is that I am a debate coach instructor for Christopher Columbus Charter School. I've been doing that for the last 3 years. I've also done it for Maritime Academy Charter School. I'm also a track coach, not a track official. I also was a coach, but I'm a track official for United States of America Track and Field. I'm also an official for the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association Track and Field. And basically what I do is I try to mentor kids as much as possible. So I appreciate your vote. I feel I'm the right person to be mayor of Philadelphia, and I thank you for having me here this evening. And my colleague here is a very good person too. You want to get to her. Okay. She is fiery. She's not as smooth and laid back as me. She's getting ready to come at you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Gary.
Okay.
I'll give you a second to catch your breath.
51 questions on that analytics. You saw that?
So,
Okay, everyone. I really appreciate you having me here.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Come closer. Come here. Yeah. Good afternoon. Hi. I'm Rebecca Rhynhart from Taipei, Philly. I use she, her pronouns. Here with Lady Blue from the Chinese American Council. She, her pronouns. Here with Jaden and Josh. He, him pronouns. They, them pronouns. And we're going to do this very quickly because we have folks who are excited to hear from you. We're going to ask some different questions that you've not heard yet. But first, I want to start with asking you to introduce yourself and then tell us what does the first 100 days look like from your administration to address safety, college and career readiness for youth, and successful transitions to adulthood.
Yes. Well, first of all, good evening, everybody. I'm so glad to join you. I'm Helen Gym, Democratic candidate for mayor, a tough Philly mom who has taken on a lot of Philadelphia's biggest fights, and somebody who has a big belief in a transformative vision for the city of Philadelphia. I think there are a lot of people who are running for office, and I'm trying to change the way people actually live in this city, and that especially has to do with young people and families. And I very much believe that a lot about the problems that we've had in Philadelphia are a tremendous amount of disinvestment. I think violence is rooted in disinvestment from neighborhoods, communities, and families. I ran for office after decades of being an organizer, in part because the mayoral administration had shut down schools, libraries, recreation centers, fire stations, /funding for after-school programs, and I felt like this city could not rise. And that is mainly what kind of pushed me in. But I knew that as soon as I came into city council, major things had to change. If you are part of a people's group or a people's organization and you have a big vision, many big things have to change. And we'll go through a little bit of my track record on some of the changes that have made a difference. But I have pursued major changes, the end of state takeovers, major investments back into our schools, and a new school modernization effort that should transform our city. I talked about keeping people housed, making sure that young people in the juvenile system was not abused, and to make sure that we expanded labor rights and real economic opportunity. I don't think people should play it safe right now, and I think a lot of people who run for office play it safe all their lives. I'm not somebody who's ever done that, so I hope that we'll have a conversation about what it looks to be really bold and truly transformative. And that starts with the next mayor's first 100 days. So there's no question that, what I would say is there's an official 100 days, and then there'll be like the day after the election, if I am fortunate to win. I will make sure that my actual tenure starts on May 17th and continues through until January 1st, because I think the city needs an on-the-ground leader. I think it needs somebody who's moving towards action, and I think we need immediate changes to bring our young people and to our families especially to help. Day one, I talked about establishing a state of emergency or to declare gun violence a public health emergency, which makes sure that we direct all of our city resources. Other people have talked about this. We need a coordinated approach for how we care and deliver on big issues. One, we absolutely have to solve crimes in the city of Philadelphia. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about how they're going to hire more police officers, but that takes a really long time to do. I'm here to promote more detectives, get crisis responders, mental health crisis responders out onto the streets so we fix our 911 response times, and move quickly for other individuals, including group violence mediators and others, to be on the ground so people feel like there's more of a presence of a community in and around
them. Not everybody is going to have to have or be responsive to a badge, a uniform, and a gun. That's not the only definition of safety in our town. Safety is the ability to be able to meet crisis, including mental health crisis, with trained interrupters and people who know how to deal with situations. So that's one of the first things that you're going to see. I'm absolutely going to focus on safe passages to and from schools. This is a room full of people who understand how terrifying it is. No child should ever be afraid to get their education, and no parent or caretaker should ever have to wait by the door worried about whether their child is going to come home. So I want an all hands on deck effort to make sure that there's safe passages to and from schools. I'll get into details about what that looks like. And then finally, in my first 100 days, every single civic asset has to be open and ready to welcome the public. We need safe havens in every single neighborhood and community, but especially communities most impacted by violence. So I hope that's one of the first things that you'll see out of me on the first 100 days.
Thank you. I also probably should have introduced all of those people when you walked in. The folks who are here represent out-of-school time organizations, after-school programs, summer employers, systems connected to all the important work that happens here in Philadelphia to keep young people safe. I want to go a little bit deeper on the question of safety and ask you to think about, in response to this question, where you see and how you see partnering with out-of-school time programs in this particular area. And I know that this is a topic that you're familiar with. So unbeknownst to many Philadelphians, since 2014, Parks and Rec has been installing devices in nearly 30 parks and playgrounds called mosquito machines. They have also been called sonic warfare devices. These devices are aimed at emitting high-pitched sounds to keep young people under the age of 25 out of those public spaces. Several U.S. cities have banned those devices. In 2020, after a U City Council that they would remain and actually added 2 more devices. Most recently, the city established a curfew to keep teens out of the fashion district, also known as the gallery. What is your plan to work in partnership with all the folks who are here to ensure not only young people have safe spaces, safe passages to and from school, but safe places to be able to pursue their passions, their dreams, their career interests in both public and private spaces here in Philadelphia?
So, first and foremost, childhood is not a crime, and young people by themselves are not criminals. This is a ridiculous thing that we are approaching towards how we're handling safety, and especially the engagement of young people right now in the city of Philadelphia. Let me be clear though, I think that there is a lot that has to be done with our young people. I'm running for mayor in part because 4,000 kids dropped out of school last year. 3,600 kids have dropped out of school since September alone of this year, 2022. 3,600 kids have dropped out of school since September of 2022. Our city is ruining its future and its future generations because it does not understand how to engage, embrace, develop, love, support, nurture, and uplift young people. And we do things that are extremely expensive, like creating surveillance, like curfews, like pushing young people away each and every day, and we call that safety. And that is bananas. And I have made that very clear. I'm one of the few people who spoke up early on about the mosquito devices being outrageous and ridiculous, not to mention potentially inhumane because they impact other things other than other individuals other than just quote unquote teenagers. They were used in different types of warfare environments. This is not how we are going to create a safe city. The most dangerous thing about Philadelphia is that we fail to invest in young people and their potential each and every time. The worst thing that we do is that we guarantee a young person a surveillance camera, a metal detector, and a police officer as soon as they walk into school, and we do not guarantee them a greeting, a nurse, a counselor, a diploma, and after-school programs and other opportunities to guarantee that they want to stay in that school. That is the fundamental disconnect that we've got with education, with city services, and with the disengagement of youth that you see. Young people right now are disengaging because it's the humane act to do. If you are not loved in a space, you will disengage from it, period. And to me, it is ridiculous that I spend as a city $6 billion, the school district of Philadelphia spends $4 billion, and I cannot compete with the streets, and I refuse to let the city allow that to happen. To me, the providers who are here are not a set of agencies, you're not a set of contracts, you're not a set of programs. You are the core of what it means to have a vibrant, vital, loving Philadelphia that cares for our young people from early hours to evening, on weekends and in the summertime, from early childhood through adulthood. So I don't see, we cannot do it ourselves, right? It's clear. The city of Philadelphia cannot just do it ourselves. Our after-school providers provide the diversity, the range of talent, the level of mentors that can keep our after-school programs going with vibrant opportunities. I've talked about every school, a community school, until 6 p.m. That doesn't mean teachers run the programs. It means that all of the people in this room become part of the mission to uplift and enrich our schools and programs. I've talked about a guaranteed summer jobs program. I'd love to be able to talk about that in more detail to ensure that any young person that signs up for an application to a summer job actually gets one and is paid for it. And to make sure that we have a real opportunity to create that surrounding support network of mentors and support individuals who are going to be necessary, because it's just not going to come through classroom teachers and officials in the city of Philadelphia. It's really going to come from the ability for us to restore the village back to our city, and that is a lot of what all of you in this room have been dedicated your lives to do.
Hello? I got it. Okay, I'm going to follow up. I feel more comfortable when I stand up. I am going to follow up on what you said. Job for all kids, open public place for everybody, making school a community in school. So my question to you are several points. The number one is that the city has funding, the city used the state funding for our OST programming, and that's cost reimbursement. So that's just one aspect. The school district has funding for after-school program. They run their own program. It's separate than the private entity also have after-school program. And everybody is running without certain coordination.
Yeah.
So would you create or would you appoint individuals in your office that answer directly to you so that all these sources of funding can be coordinated? And it's not the dollar, it's space,
Right.
it's resource.
Yeah.
During COVID, the rec center had to open the door for after-school programs to go in, and that's the best time ever because we know what we're doing when it comes to literacy and children. The city know what they're doing when it comes to sport programs. But that suddenly got shut down after COVID's over, and we go back to default and operating in silos. So my question again back to you is that how would you, as a mayor, direct people and not asking. Asking doesn't work, and we have been asking, and the city has been asking for I don't know how many years I've been working in this area. So how would you direct people that report to you? How would you bring in the school district into this equation so that resources can be used for children, for jobs, for after school, for academic enrichment, for sport, for arts, for everything that the school district didn't have money to do?
Thank you. So I think I talked a little bit about how I would on day one talk about pulling together a big public health first approach towards violence in our city, and I absolutely see our after school programs as being part of that coordinated work. It is absolutely true what you laid out, Quinn. One of the things that is just absolutely confounding about the city is that most of the work that we do is just in all these separate buckets, not all of which are controlled by the mayor, to be perfectly honest. When somebody comes in and says, I will fix it because I am the mayor, a lot of what the problem I have with that approach is that as a mayor, you're only responsible for a very small pie. If you think the only thing you can do is about the agencies or even the convening, because believe me, we've all sat around tables multiple times and nothing ever changes. The mayor that you want is somebody who doesn't just convene, but actually coordinates all the different entities that come together. So I have me and any other candidate who's running in the race is that I have been thinking about these issues for more than 2 decades. I wake up thinking about it, I go to bed thinking about it. But this is a mission where the city, the school system, and our different providers of programs have to act as one entity. We must present a coordinated effort, a coordinated budget, and a coordinated front both to Harrisburg and to City Council, and we have to make sure that our communities and families know about it. I am flabbergasted that if you are a parent of a 3rd grade child and you live in, 19131 zip code, there's no place in the world where you could go to find out what are the available programs that are in your area that are available at different levels, whether they are private, school district, city run, or otherwise. You should be able to know where these programs are actually running. How much do they cost? What are the range of options? And that myself as a city council or as the mayor should make sure that each and every zip code is fully filled in among the range of options from free to paid, and to make sure that they're running citywide or they're running year round rather. I would start, obviously we're going to have a conversation about capacity, I'm sure, at some point. But I am going to start in areas that are deeply impacted by violence and disinvestment. So I think those are the areas that I really feel very strongly need to happen, in large part because so many young people who are being hurt right now are being hurt or shot by guns before 6 p.m. So because of that, I need to be on hyperdrive in making sure that there is that coordinated approach. But to me, the issue is we lose money from the state because we do not come in as a coordinated entity to the state for our OST dollars. We lose money at the city level because we don't come in as a coordinated entity trying to figure out how much can the city cover, what can private entities cover, and what can be covered by the school district of Philadelphia. And then, I think as was said before, some places see a plethora of programs, and other places are a complete wasteland. There's not the options that are available. There isn't a focused effort on concentrating city resources towards developing those programs or driving programs there. And that's why we see inequity across the city. Inequity is not just about intent. Inequity is the result of neglect, of people being on autopilot, and people assuming that something's going to be different when everything has just repeated itself over and over again. So for me, you will, I hope, see someone who's very purposeful. You will have somebody who is answering to me and to a cabinet, because again, as I said, I see this not just as running a set of programs so everybody gets a contract that gets paid in this room. I see that as meeting a mission for the care and keeping of young people, particularly in communities and neighborhoods that have traditionally lacked institutional structures or a wealth of programs. I need that to happen. All of us in this room want that to happen, and I think when the city actually shows that it starts there and is purposeful and is deliberate and actually competent in that delivery, you're going to see the city calm down.
Thank you. We have time for one more question because we committed to a little bit of 6:30 and we're so glad that we made time to join us.
Thank you for waiting.
So you talked about a plan for guaranteed jobs. Can you tell us about what that looks like and use this as an opportunity to, in about the 3 to 4 minutes we have left, talk about that and anything else you want us to know about yourself, your elected mayor?
Yes, thank you. So, I'm very serious about a guaranteed youth employment program. Many of us in this room know that about 50% of the young people who apply for jobs ever actually get one. That has a lot to do with the fact that we don't really support young people getting through the application process. Young people need vital docs. Young people need to check their email. Young people need to walk their way through a complicated program, and young people need to figure out how they're going to get back and forth to jobs when we don't immediately provide separate transportation or ease of moving young people through the city that we presume, as adults we can move through. So one of the things I did last year in particular was work at Dobbins High School to make sure that as many young people who applied for jobs actually made their way through. What it meant was that we actually had to assign somebody there to help young people get through the program, get through the application process, and then make their way in through the program and then support them through the program. I want to see that happen on hyperdrive across schools, across the city. That's what I think it looks like to have a 100% employment option for youth and for teens. And that, I think, is one of the most important things that we do, because jobs, I think, are about mentorship, it's about discipline, it's about opportunity, it's about a chance to really give back, and it's a chance for our private employers to actually be part of this mission too. This isn't just a charitable effort on the work of a city or individuals or nonprofits. This is a mission for the city to employ our young people, to give them the secondary, post-secondary success that will ultimately be required for graduation as well. And, you know, I'm happy just to say again, you know, first of all, I want to thank Mr. for waiting around for me, and for listening so passionately. You will have a choice in the next 2 weeks. And as I said, I believe that Philadelphia needs to not just have a change of faces, because that's a lot about what we think of as satisfactory for change. You need someone who's going to sweep in and make some sweeping changes through. And as I said before, a lot of people who run for office in Philadelphia have played it safe much of their lives. They have chosen safe routes, and none of us in this room are here because our young people feel safe, or they've had the luxury of being able to just hang out and let the world figure it out for them. When we are not proactive, when we react to violence, when we react to chaos, when we react to disinvestment, we create the chaos that is echoed in young people's lives. Our young people do not have the luxury for us to wait around until the worst things happen to them. We already know the consequences of disinvestment, so you need a mayor who is going to be purposeful about the investments that look and feel how they look and feel on the ground to communities and people. I have lived that way all my life. I've spent my life as an organizer. I've worked with immigrant communities that didn't speak English and made sure that communities weren't displaced or families torn apart by deportation and detention. I stood with parents and educators and young people when schools were being closed, when budgets were slashed, and we built a bigger movement to bring our schools and our city back to life and back to all of us. I hope that what you will see in the next 16 days is somebody who is not running on a platform. I'm running to finish a job I started and have been working on for the last 20 years, to make this city understand that it has to come back to sanity and humanity by investing in its people, by stopping with the fear-mongering on young people's lives in particular. Invest, support, mentor, nurture. Our whole budgets should be reorganized and redirected around strong families, supported youth, and vibrant neighborhoods. I believe that's the agenda that I've tried to lead all my life. I believe it's an agenda that has changed things and possibilities. And I hope people don't think that this is like pie in the sky or impossible to talk about. I hope people understand that what's impossible is 10 years down the road, we have schools that are still falling apart. 10 years down the road, that we have young people who can't graduate from basic graduation requirements established by the state. And that 10 years down the road, that we're gonna have a city where people don't feel comfortable sending their young people or being able to raise a family. That's not my Philadelphia. That won't be my Philadelphia here as